Hello. If you're not making as many sales or even any sales on Etsy right now, we're going to be talking about why that might be, because there are a few reasons why that could be. Some are within your control and there are things that you can do about it. Others, not so much. If you're new here, hello, I'm Kim. This is my channel and this is the Coffee and Craft podcast that I do every month. And I have my coffee and I have my craft and I chat about stuff. And I've lost my needle already. Good start. And as I just stated, we're going to be talking about reasons why you may not be making sales on Etsy at the moment. Now, I say Etsy because I make physical handmade products, specifically hand embroidery. And so my website and Etsy are my main places that I sell on. All right, so let's dive in with the first one. And it's, it's not going to be something that people are going to want to hear. It could be your products. I know. Nobody wants to hear that. Trust me, I don't like to face that particular question myself, but a lot of the times when we are not making sales, it is our products. It could be a lack of products. I've been there before where I only had 5 products in my Etsy shop, and so needless to say, the sales weren't very forthcoming because the items just weren't strong enough. But you may have had an item that sold really well, and then maybe it was a trend and that trend is peaked and is now waning, and you're just not making as many sales from it, or it's dried up altogether. Now that could be because the trend itself has just run its course, or maybe your item is still getting views from people and favorites and all of the good things. Always look at those metrics. Don't get stuck in the weeds with them. Don't hyper focus on them, but do look at them because they can just provide you with a clue as to what's working and what's not. If something is getting someone's attention, but it's not keeping their attention, then it could be the product itself just isn't the best within your niche. Now, I'll go into more detail on that in a minute, but basically, periodically, you are going to have to refresh your items or replace them with something even better. I've been doing this myself in my own shop recently. That's actually what I'm working on. You can't see if you're listening to this, but I'm holding up my current project, which is a hand embroidered sunflower on one of my t-shirts, and I'm using a stick and stitch patch from my shop, and it's massive. But basically, I had some stick and stitch packs in my shop, and what I've done is I've gone back in and I've refreshed them and made them better, because products have a shelf life, a natural shelf life. It doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong or that they're not good. It's just that occasionally you either have to, as I say, refresh them and just tweak them so that they stay relevant, or you have to replace them altogether with something a bit newer. How long of a shelf life products have will vary wildly from niche to niche and item to item. I did have a product in my shop that did really, really well for 2 years. It was a product that you could only find on Etsy, and it really sort of died a death when the high street stores caught wind of the trend. And this is another thing. If your product is something that someone can get on the high street, it's a losing battle. I mean, as small business owners, we are climbing a very steep mountain face. And if you're going to compete with a high street, you've just made a very steep mountain face vertical. So yes, review your products first and foremost. See how they stand out from your competition, if at all. And if they don't, maybe start there. But also bear in mind that you want to make sure that there is at least a demand for your product, because if there isn't a demand for your product, it might be time to focus on a new thing altogether. And I don't mean new niche, I mean new product. There's got to be demand. It doesn't matter how good your product is, it doesn't matter how well it's made. If there is no demand for it, then I'm afraid it's just kind of dead in the water. I don't mean to be mean in this podcast episode. I'm just inviting people to ask the difficult questions, because sometimes that is where the answers lie. And trust me, I have to ask myself these too. It sucks. The other reason that you might not be making many sales is that Etsy is pretty saturated right now. I know. It's always been saturated. I have a feeling it always will be. That being said, there is a real issue at the moment of supply outstripping demand in most niches. Now that can make it problematic enough to stand out from the crowd and just get seen. But when you think about how Etsy works, it's now an issue just trying to maintain the attention of buyers, not just grab it. When I think of listing on Etsy, there are three main parts to the journey. You need to be in the net of items that Etsy show a potential customer. Then you've got to stand out from all of the items enough to get someone's click. But now we also have to maintain that attention, because even if somebody clicks into our item, they will usually find similar items plastered all over the listing, which means if someone else has got a more attention-grabbing photograph, or there's something about their item that is a bit more than what we offer, they can just click straight off again. It's not enough now to just get the click. You have to get the click and maintain the attention span. As if life isn't difficult enough. I mean, it's even the case with ads. As far as I know, there's even an issue with too many ads on the platform at the moment. So I think there's competition there as well. If you use ads as a strategy to make sales, I think you're going to have noticed a slowdown there too. It's hard out there right now. So what can we do to stand out and keep people's attention on a crowded as heck platform? I've already mentioned it in the last point. You have to try and figure out how you can be different from everyone else. And this is why that piece of advice about checking out what your competition is doing and be inspired by what it's bad advice. It's terrible advice, especially now, because the more saturated a platform, the more you have to be different, the more you have to offer something that other people aren't. So of course my neighbour will decide to cut their grass when I'm filming. If my camera is picking it up, I do apologise. So yes, try and figure out ways that you can be different. And even if you can't be different with your product, remember you can stand out in other ways. You can be different with your photography. That is a huge one, because that does tend to be one of the first things that becomes very, very samey on Etsy. So look how you can pop out with colours or props, or just sticking sometimes a face. People connect really well with faces. So if you do something where it would be relevant to have a face involved, I don't know, if you sell earrings or something. Oh, I can still click with my plaster on my thumb. Yeah, just get creative, think of different ways, try some stuff out, and try and stand out. All right, another thing that might be holding you back from making sales, and I've kind of alluded to this in the last couple of points, your photographs. It's such a simple fix, but let's be honest, it's a skill, isn't it? It's a skill that some people just seem to have. I am not one of them. Product photography is not something I enjoy, I'm going to be honest. But that being said, even I can't deny how it can make or break a listing. And I have had products where I kept thinking to myself, people are clicking on this product and they're liking it, they're favoriting it, but they're just not converting into sales. And out of pure desperation, I changed the photographs. I took some more, I put a bit of effort into it, and it became one of my best sellers. I know, shocking, except it wasn't, because again, if you know it isn't the product and you know that you are getting attention from people, but it's not converting, you're halfway there. That's a good thing. Don't feel like a failure if you're getting the views, you're getting the favorites and stuff, because you're halfway there. What you need to do is keep going, and it will be something else within your listing that will probably be holding you back. And for me, it's almost always my photographs. Again, this is another brilliant opportunity for you to stand out from your competitors. Oh, and include videos. This piece of advice is as much for me as it is for any of you guys. I don't know. I think maybe one of my listings has a video currently at the time of filming. I need to get on that. I need to be on it, because videos make all the difference. I think they automatically play as well if someone is scrolling through the search page and they happen to scroll over your item. And I'm going to just tell you a little story, because this is, apart from the fact that it's really interesting, this might help you. If the majority of your customers are female, and I know I'm generalizing here, but bear with, I watched a documentary years ago where they were investigating the buying patterns of men versus women, and women, and I've not been able to not notice this ever since, women as a general rule, have a tendency to touch the items, to pick things up when they're shopping on the high street, for example, and have a look and then put it down. It's almost as if we need to make some sort of a connection with something before we're willing to put it in our cart and buy it. Whereas men, again, generalizing, tend to go in, have a look, go straight to a thing, pick it up, and almost always the thing they pick up will be the thing that they buy. And this has always been an obstacle if you're selling online, because people can't pick up your thing. They can't feel the weight of it. They can't hold it up to the light, see how it drapes, all of those things. And a video is the closest thing that we have to letting people do that, which is why videos are, one, so important, and two, completely underutilized. And I don't think people realize just how that can tip people over the edge. Also, with regards to videos, don't fret about all of the bells and whistles. I've seen some videos that are production-wise very high quality, but are just completely the wrong thing that I'm looking for as a customer. Because often what I'm looking for is I want to see what it looks like in someone's hand in natural light, because I want to get an idea of how the light hits it, the natural colors, and roughly how big it is. The videos can be so easy to make. They don't need to be high production. They just need to accurately show your item and help the customer know what it might look like, feel like, etc. Just something to think about, that's all. I'm not saying it will definitely work, but if you're watching this video, I'm guessing you want to make some more sales. If you haven't got videos on your items, then it's worth trying. Like I said, I will be doing it too, just as soon as I have time. Now, I'm filming this in May of 2023, and we are coming up to what is known by a lot of people in a lot of niches as the summer slump, because traditionally, not for everyone, but traditionally, summer is a quiet time of the year. The next reason why you might not be making as many sales as you hope is simply because of seasonality. Dependent on what you make and what niche you're in, you will have busy periods and quiet periods. I'm expecting to go into a quiet period or a quieter period, so I'm not going to give myself a hard time if sales are a bit slow. That being said, I used to make festival clothing, and as you can imagine, most of the music festivals, at least here in the UK, are in the summer. So summer used to be my busiest time of the year. My point is, if you've been in business long enough to know when your busy periods are and your quiet periods are, do bear that in mind, because it will have an impact. And obviously, if you are about to go into a quiet period, think about what you can do to prepare for the busy periods. June is next month, and that's when I'll be starting to prepare for the holiday season. But I'm going to forget about that for now, because yeah. But also, if you really want to think of ways that you can carry yourself through quiet periods, think about developing a product that you can sell that will do well during your quiet periods. So say, for example, it's summer. Try and think about where people are spending their money at this time of year. Holidays is a big one. This is one of those areas that does really well at this time of year. There are others. But if you find that there is a time of year that is traditionally slow for you, try and see what is going on at that time of year and see if you can pivot into that area with at least one of your products. And that way it might just bring you in some consistent sales when things are otherwise a little bit quieter. Okay, and the last reason that you might be finding it difficult to make sales in 2023, and I would not be doing this video justice if I didn't bring this up, the economy! Like it or not, no one is getting off lightly with this. I think I mentioned this was actually a year ago, and then it was something that was being talked about as a sort of storm on the horizon, and I could see it coming, and I was like, oh, we are in for a rough 2 years. A year on, oh, you gotta laugh or you'll cry. None of us are not feeling the effects to some degree or another right now. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, it seems to be affecting everybody. And I don't even need to go into the reasons why. I think we're all well aware of that by now. But it does trickle down. And although this is not news, it's been talked about for, as I say, at least a year, but more. It takes time to trickle down, and I think it's there. It's been there for a while, and we are all feeling the effects, even to the degree of making sales on Etsy. Because when people's outgoings increase, the amount of disposable income that they have decreases, and they will still purchase and you will still make sales, but you will find that you're making fewer of them because people are being more mindful with what they spend their money on. And this links back to something I mentioned earlier. Okay, do you remember that I said earlier that you need to add more value to your products to maintain customers' attention? This also is linked to the whole decreased disposable income. If people are going to be more mindful with what they spend their money on, they're going to be looking for what gives them the most bang for their buck. Now, this is not linked to underpricing your items. Please don't do that. This is just about adding something a little extra in that wriggle room of what's affordable for you to make the product. And a way to think about this is actually an old piece of advice that has been relevant on Etsy for years. And that's that two things seem to do very well on Etsy, and that's anything to do with gifting and personalized items. I tend to, with the personalization aspect, I tend to get either people embracing it full throttle or just, Kim, be quiet. It's a polarizing issue is what I'm saying. A lot of people can't apply personalization to their products, or they don't have the time or the will. I get it. I do get it. Because this is so slow as a medium, I felt that I couldn't add it to my listings. And I just had this feeling that if I could just crack it, if I could just find a product that I could personalize, it would help bring in more consistent sales that would just, keep the shop ticking over. And I did it because I do think everybody can, to a degree, if they want and need to. I came up with a particular product which I've now shelved, but that was a trend-based, that was also a trend-based product, and I added personalization to it to make it stand out from the others on Etsy, and for a short while it was my best seller. And then the trend disappeared, and so I shelved the product. But I'm telling you that story to demonstrate that personalization is one of those things that you can use to add more value to your product and make it stand out from everybody else. Because something that takes a little bit of extra effort is usually going to be an easy way to stand out from your competition, because the masses will be doing the bare minimum. They won't be trying to take it to the next level because it's a faff. Now, if you want extra sales, you might need to embrace a little bit of extra faff, is the point that I'm trying to make. Another way of looking at this is if you imagine one of your products that's not been selling well and you want it to start selling again, imagine what would make that product difficult for someone to put down. What would make it difficult for someone to walk away from? As I say, personalization is one way, but in essence, what you're looking for is to offer some form of convenience or some form of time saving on behalf of the buyer. This is probably where gifting and personalization comes in. If somebody's looking, for example, for a wedding gift, if they can find a gift that's going to do all of the things for them, sort of like it's going to be heartfelt, maybe through personalization, it's going to, fill the void of the gift, and it's maybe you can get it gift wrapped as well, so they're not even going to have to worry about that. It's going to be the solution to so many of their problems. So people are more willing to spend more money on something like that because it saves them time and it's very convenient and there's very little effort on their part, which sounds horrible, but I'm even thinking about my buying behavior in this instance, and it's true. I will pay money for convenience. And if you think about anything that you buy, there's usually a level of convenience involved, or time saving, or money saving. There's something there that you are paying for. It's one reason why so many of us go to supermarkets to buy our food as opposed to going to the butchers, the bakers, the candlestick makers, or whatever it used to be. Because it's more convenient to go to one place and get everything that we need in the one place. It saves us time. And the good thing about the economy, although it is completely out of your control, it is temporary. This will not last. If there is anything that last few years have taught me in business, it's don't get too comfortable with anything. It seems to be whack-a-mole with problems at the moment. As soon as one thing goes, another thing rears its ugly head. So if you're not making any sales this year, or you're just having a slow period, don't panic, she says. I feel like I've spent most of 2023 in a mild state of panic. And if you're going to be in business for any length of time, you are going to have periods like this. And sometimes years. Sorry. So yeah, something like the economy, completely out of your control. There is nothing that you can do about it. And I have mentioned some other things that you can look at that are within your control. So there are things that you can do to try and bring in those sales and jumpstart your shop again. If you would like more tips on how to grow your business, or even just bring in some sales, then hop on over here and I'll see you there.